I'm not. I will get my thing. All right. So.
Hey everybody, how you doing? Welcome to Love in 60 Seconds. It's Frederick and Gene Watts, and just want to welcome you live. How are you guys doing this evening? Thank you for joining. Continue to share this and like it with everybody, and we're so happy to see you guys tonight on Facebook and Instagram Live. So tonight we're going to talk about
how to get unstuck. I know I promised last week some of the ladies that we're going to talk about how to lead from behind, and we will get to that subject in the future. But from what I have talked about, hey there, we've talked about this week. Well, I should say the messages that we've gotten this week, the people that we've talked to this week. We really want to talk about how to get unstuck. We've had a number of people that feel stuck in their relationship, and we're not talking about stuck in meaning getting out of the relationship. We're talking about stuck in a certain place in a relationship, and this really can be not just for married couples, but it can also be for people that are dating and maybe have been dating for a long time, and you're trying to figure out if you're going to move to the next level, if you're going to the next level, you're going to the next phase or whatever it is, but you're kind of stuck. So definitely we want to talk about getting unstuck in your relationship. And, you know, sometimes even though you may be stuck and not realize that you're stuck. You might be stuck because sometimes being stuck is a routine. It's being in a pattern, and all routines and all patterns are not bad. But when you're in a relationship, when you're in a marriage, you don't want to be stuck in any position or any place. You know, if you got a good rhythm, a good happy place, you still want to always shake it up, because what ends up happening is when you're in a situation like that, hi there, Shirley. When you're in there in a situation like that, sometimes what can happen is you can think that you're in a happy place. You can think that you are doing good. And all of a sudden, one of you may get blindsided by something that the other person does. And I cannot tell you how many times I've talked to people that, you know, thought that they were happy, and then they got divorce papers, or thought that they were happy and, you know, the other person did something, you know, stupid, or had an indiscretion, or something bad happened. So you don't want to stay in a place of being stuck.
And we want to talk to you also and tell you how much we appreciate you. Tonight is also our viewer appreciation giveaway.
Yeah.
So what we want to do is that we're going to also, we pinned our our YouTube page up there. It's called What's Up Video. So we're going to tell you tonight, we're going to give away a gift card just to say how much we appreciate you guys. A $50 gift card. Yeah. And thank you guys for watching. So the way to do that, and we'll give you some instructions at the end of the video. We're not going to be long tonight, but we want you to go and subscribe to our YouTube page, which is What's Up Video. All right? And
hey, Shonda.
And subscribe, What's Up Video. Go and subscribe so we know that you subscribe. And then come back to any of the social media, Instagram or Facebook, and we'll have a little video up there, and just like the video that we tell you to like, and then you'll be entering our drawing. Yeah. And then Thursday we'll do a special Love in 60 Seconds just on Instagram and on Facebook for a minute, and we'll let you know who won.
Absolutely.
So we appreciate you guys, and once again, and we'll be talking about it just to remind you through the night. We'll give you the Thursday to enter, and then we'll make our drawing on Thursday.
Absolutely. So we're going to give you more information about that going forward, but we definitely want to make sure tonight, like I said, we're not going to be long tonight, but we are going to be sharing tonight and letting you know how to get unstuck if you're in a relationship, whether you're in a marriage, whether you're in a relationship, or even if you are single and thinking about getting into another relationship. Sometimes after you've been in a relationship and maybe it didn't end the way that you wanted it to end, or it's been just a long time since you've been in a relationship, or you are a widow or a widower, and you kind of want to get to that next step or that next place of actually getting into another relationship. You know, these are things that you can do, and these are things that you can apply to help you not be stuck, because regardless, like we said, you can be even in your happy place. It's not good, especially when you're in a relationship with another person, even when you're in your happy place, just to stay in that stuck routine, because what ends up happening is people change, they evolve, and then you got that, oh, we grew apart, or oh, that other person does something stupid, because you really weren't being watchful, you really weren't being pliable, and you need to be able to grow together. So let's talk about, well, what do you think being stuck is?
Being stuck is just being in a place where you are, like you said, your happy place, but in a place where one of you, and when you're in a relationship, you're not moving forward. You're not growing. Just like if you get stuck in the mud, you have all the power in a car to get to your destination, but you're not moving. Something's holding you back, and that could be lack of communication, a lack of trust, a lack of a hurt. There's so many issues that can cause you to get stuck in life. And so you have to be able to make sure that you have something, and hopefully we'll give you some pointers on how to have that traction to pull yourself out, because that's real. Every marriage is going to go through, every relationship is going to go through times where you feel like you're stuck, and you never want to get to a place where you're stagnant. And you never want to get a place to, like we said many times before, where you're isolated, because that's when you can allow the enemy to come in and make that situation into a place where you cannot get unstuck.
Absolutely. And you want to make sure that you are, how can I say, you want to make sure that you're being pliable and that you're being honest with yourself. The first thing that you can do, though, in getting unstuck is you have to be honest with yourself. You got to take responsibility yourself. And like I said, that's whether you're in a marriage, you're in a dating relationship, or whether you're single. You got to take responsibility for where you are yourself. You can't be responsible for another person's actions, and you can't be responsible for moving forward for another person. You have to be responsible for your own actions. And this is, the type of scenario a lot of people fall into. They expect somebody else to take responsibility and move everything forward. And you got to be responsible for your own actions, responsible for yourself. Did you want to say a little bit about that?
Thank you guys for tuning in. Hey, Curtis. Hey, James. As individuals in a marriage, you are one, but you're still an individual. So a lot of times, if you are looking for your spouse to take responsibility for your own actions, you're going to come into a world of trouble, because you still have to be one. You have to be whole within yourself.
Yep.
And then that's how you come together to make one. But a lot of times, even men, sometimes we don't want to take responsibility because our pride gets in the way, or a lot of times we think, you know what, I don't have to say I'm sorry, or sometimes, if I admit that I made a mistake, it's weakness. And it's not weakness to make a mistake. It's a weakness not to want to correct the mistake, to not to want to make the relationship better.
That's right. That's really actually powerful, because mistakes are, they show our human nature. Mistakes says that you're human. Mistakes says that you're not perfect. And even though the Bible says, be ye perfect, for I am perfect, he means, that perfect in that growth and striving, because God knew that we could not do everything perfectly, because he was aware of that. He sent Jesus, his son, to become the sacrifice for us, because we would never be perfect. We would never do everything right. And people say, I heard somebody say, it's a myth to say you're perfect just the way you are, or because nobody is perfect. Nobody is perfect, and nobody's going to do everything perfect all the time. That if that was the case, then we wouldn't need grace. We would not need any grace, and we would not need any mercy, but we need mercy and grace every day. So you and your spouse are imperfect people. So you got to take responsibility for your actions. And again, what you do afterwards. Our bishop preaches something. It's not what you do, but it's what you do next.
Right.
Because you're going to do something dumb. You may have already done something dumb, but it's not what you've done, because you're not your mistake. You're not what you did. You're not the choice that you made. Right. It is what you do next. That counts, because that signifies whether or not you're a real man or whether or not you're a real woman. Is when you stand up and you make the right decision after you make the mistake. Right. So again, taking responsibility for your actions and taking responsibility for yourself, that is one of the first things that you can do to get unstuck.
Right. And just like an analogy of like a soldier, we always talk about, and you hear in the Christian church about stand, always stand against the enemy, stand for your marriage, stand for relationships. But we never talk about a soldier getting weary, because that is a real dynamic. You're going to get weary, and I like that. It's not really, because you will make mistakes, you will have some issues, but if you carry that analogy that our bishop talked about in life, is that when you fall, which you will, or when you make a mistake and you get back up, it's that next action right there that proves how well that you caught hold of everything.
Absolutely.
So, and it's not even the point, the enemy will say, well, hey, look what you fell. Hey, everybody falls. So what? You fell. But it's how you get back up, and it's what you do next that is the footprint, the blueprint, and the foundation of whether or not you can have a successful relationship, a successful marriage. And for men, a lot of times just getting back up and getting back into the fight makes you a diligent soldier. It makes you, even in your weariness, it's going to help you to be like, you know what? Even though I treated my wife wrong today, I snapped at her, I was wrong, I yelled at her, I did that. I'm sorry, I own it. But what I'm going to do next, I'm going to bring her some flowers. I'm going to say I'm sorry, I'm going to cook her dinner. Or you know what, I'm just going to apologize and address what we call the elephant in the room in certain situations. Right. It's very important that you don't just, as men, just be like, you know what, I'm going to let it go. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to do it. No, fall down, be weary, but then love your spouse back to where you need to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. That is super powerful. I was really enjoying listening to you talk about that because a bunch of scriptures came to mind, and we're really dealing with this number one point, but I think this is where God wants us to be and where he wants us to talk about. But like the Bible says, a just man falls a few times. It didn't say a just man may fall once. And the Bible says that person is just, meaning that person is good. He's just. The Bible called you just, but you're going to fall a few times. You're going to do it several times. You're going to do it more than once. But I think it was commissioned when they sang the song. They said, just man falls but a few times, but he gets back up with the right mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's not, and then Donnie McClurkin wrote a song, we fall down, but we get up. Mm-hmm. And it's because a saint is just a sinner who fell down and got up. Mm-hmm. If you fall down, don't stay down.
Right.
If you make a mistake, don't stay there. You're not your mistake. You're not, even if you, you lied to your spouse, doesn't mean you are a liar. You did lie, but because of the grace of God, you are able to come back and you are able to, walk in truth. You're able to walk in honesty. If you committed adultery, they say, oh, you're labeled now an adulterer. No, you're really not, because whatever you are or whatever you were is really covered under the blood of Jesus. It is really under the umbrella of forgiveness. It is really it's covered. Mm-hmm. It's you're not that person. You're not that thing. You're not that, whatever it is, extortioner, whatever whatever it is, you're not that thing. And you're taking responsibility for what you did, getting back up.
Right. But now, if you continue to do it,
you is a liar. No, just like
and that's what we talk about.
Right, we're talking about don't stay down.
About what you do next. You're gonna get trapped in the mud. You're gonna do those things. But if you're working towards getting unstuck, if you're working towards getting that way, then you're not that. You're what God says you are.
It's what you do next. It's not what you do. It's what you do next.
Definitely.
And so you got to take responsibility for you. So even if you were in a relationship and it was a bad relationship, or if you were in a relationship and I'm not a real big Tyler. Well, I love Tyler Perry. He's a great guy. But sometimes some of his movies I don't necessarily just be all into like that. But I watched a movie, Acrimony, not that long ago, a few days ago actually, and you might be like this woman in the movie. She accused her husband, or actually her husband had cheated on her prior to them getting married in their relationship, and she was a little cray-cray. But anyways, long story short, she thought that he had cheated again, and he really had not, and she really did not walk in forgiveness for him. She did not walk, she didn't believe him. She listened to everyone else. And he ended up right after she divorced him, and he really didn't do anything but be a bum. But she had believed in him all of this time, but then some people talked to her out of believing in him. Even if you're like her and you did not walk in forgiveness and you have regret from that, again, you can move on from that point. You can move on from that, and then the next time you're allowed to be in a relationship, and the next time God gives you someone, you can have a better perspective about walking in the spirit of forgiveness and walking in love. All right. So the next thing is you got to articulate what you want.
Okay.
That is a hard thing for people to do. Sometimes, people don't, articulate or are not able to say what it is that they want. They just know, well, I don't really know what's going on with my relationship. I don't really know what's going on with my, oh, I don't even really know what I want, even in my next relationship. I can't really, or be like, I want him to have money. I want him to have this. I want him to have, I want to be saved, or I want to be spiritual. I want him to be the apostle of the whole world, or whatever. You can be having all those things, but you really don't know fully how to articulate what you want, because at the end of the day, what a woman really wants is to be loved. That's what she wants. She wants to be loved, and she wants to be provided for and taken care of. That's what she really, really wants. And then all of those other things are built upon that. So you really got to be able to articulate what it is that you want.
And what is it you want in marriage? What is it that you want from your spouse?
Absolutely.
Even when you pray, what you want for your spouse to be like. A lot of times, and men, a lot of times you find themselves in situations where they don't articulate, meaning that they have these desires that they want, but your spouse is not a mind reader. Mm-mm. If you desire more intimacy from your spouse, if you desire your spouse not to, pass gas under the sheets,
right.
whatever it may be, you have to articulate those things, and you have to have a discussion. And sometimes the discussion is not, may not be comfortable, mm-hmm. but it's you want to be uncomfortable so that you can be compatible.
Absolutely.
So you need to have those talks and express yourself. Be like, look, honey, I love our intimacy, but I would like, to once a week hang from the 6 shillings.
Yeah.
Hang from the chandeliers,
right.
Whatever. And you might think, oh, my wife is not into that. She'd be like, oh, I already bought
I got the chandelier in the room, baby. Right. You just never did ask. I didn't know what communicate.
I got the pole,
Right, exactly.
Whatever. You have to communicate, and because that is the basic and the foundations for a successful relationship, marriage, or otherwise.
Absolutely. You got to articulate what it is that you want. You got to be able to speak and talk about what it is that you want. Hey there, you got to be able to talk about what it is that you want. A lot of people, you'd be surprised that they cannot not take responsibility for where they are being stuck, but they can't even really articulate what it is that they want from their spouse. They don't even know how to say, I want you to be more intimate. I want you to be more loving. I want you to be more tender. They don't even know how to tell them that. And you would be really surprised at how difficult those conversations can be with between people, between their spouse, or even going on to their next relationship, or even if they're in a romantic relationship and not yet married. You need to, especially if you're there, if you single, or if you are single but taken, you definitely need to make sure that you are in a place where you can start articulating what it is that you want, because that is going to be critical to the happiness and the longevity of your marriage. If you're not being able to talk to nobody, come on now, right. You're going to have a situation. You're going to have a situation, and you're going to be very unfulfilled in that relationship. So, the next thing, you may have to be the first person that changes. You might be the first person that has to act. I want to read something that I read for an example, and I'm going to read it to you. This is a lady talking, and she's having a relationship. She's stuck in her relationship. She's stuck in her marriage, or she feels like, that they are in this pattern, in this cycle, like Jonathan McReynolds. They're in this cycles. So they're in cycles, and they cannot get out of this place. And it says, I've been trying to make this relationship better, but I cannot seem to make anything work. I know that what I'm doing is in the best interest of my relationship, but my husband is not doing his part. I would take responsibility for my part in the problems if I felt I was at fault. That's already an ant, all right? But the thing is, I don't, and I can't be critical of myself for being disappointed in what my partner hasn't been able to do. Does that make any sense? Well, you want to say something?
This is a great example. And once again, just sidetrack, we will be doing our giveaway. So keep watching and keep paying attention. We got some instructions going for you in a moment. But a lot of times when we're talking about making the change, we don't even, maybe it's not that we don't want to, but we don't even consider that change starts here first.
Absolutely.
And it starts in the heart, and it starts with you. So in this example of change, a lot of times we're expecting our significant other, our spouse, to make those changes, when a lot of our issues that we have to deal with has to start with us.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. No, I agree. This person was like, I would take responsibility if I knew if I was at fault, but I'm right about everything. I'm the person that's right. I don't care if you are 100% right. There's something that you're wrong about. period. I don't care if you were perfect and your spouse did something super stupid. You were not watchful in some place, or you were not prayerful in some place. It was some place that you can be responsible for, that you gotta, again, going back to number one, take responsibility of your actions. But you gotta also there's a saying that prayer changes things. And the first thing that prayer changes is the person that's doing the praying. Right. You have got to change yourself a lot of times to get unstuck. Unstuck, and that's like in your job or anywhere. If you're stuck, on your job and you feel like you not gonna ever move anywhere for, you need to either change your educational level. You need to start looking outside of where you are if you want to move forward. All of those things, you got to be looking to change within yourself. So like, for example, if you want your partner to be more sexual, if you want your, whoever has the higher sex drive and you want the person who has the lower sex drive to come up, you have got to help do things to help them do that. Right. To help them be more receptive to you in that area. You gotta, if you just, you want your spouse or whatever to clean more or whatever, you have got to be the person who does something to help them. You might be the first one. You got to be the first person to help change. Right. If you want to see something, you got to say something. You got to do something to help. And not just be like, we need to get together more often, or, you need to clean up the kitchen more often, or you need to clean up the house, or you need to take me out on more dates. You need to make sure that you are sharing expressing your feelings, articulating, like I said, but then also doing what you can to help facilitate it. And
also, when we talk about being unstuck or getting unstuck, think about if you've ever been stuck in a car. I have. A lot of time, and before, the first thing that you do is you do what? You try to change gears. You try to get yourself out of the situation. Yep. Before you can pull yourself out, you have to go through the different gears. Maybe the low gear is going to work. Maybe the high gear is going to work. Whatever it is to get that wheel spinning. That's because right. You are in a situation that you don't want to be in. But if you just sit there and wait for something, you have to have some type of action. Yeah. You either got to get somebody to get you a tow. You either got to tie something to a tree and pull yourself out. You either have to put some boards under under your wheels, because what's happening when you're stuck, think about it, your wheels are just spinning. You're going through the same motions, you're going through the same things over and over again. There's been no change, and you might love each other, or you do love each other, but if you don't put the effort in to make that change, to get yourself going again, and a lot of times there's been nothing wrong. Yeah. You're just spinning. Right. But what you have to do is change gears. Yeah. You got to change it up. You have to do something different. If your wife desires flowers or she desires time, I saw a quote today that's very important and applies to me. If you are holding your phone more than you holding your wife, time to switch some gears. Time to switch up and do something, because the most important thing should be your spouse, should be that intimacy, should be that connection. So when we're talking about this, and this person right here, it seems like they probably needed to start with them. Yes. And switch up some things before they put this, oh, hey, my relationship's not working and it's my spouse's fault or it's my partner's fault. Could be, but what have you done to switch gears to change up? Absolutely. What have you done lately? What have you done to make things better? What have you done to get the outcome that you want? Because you got to facilitate. You got to fertilize that ground. You got to make it be what it needs to be. You can't tell somebody, I just want you to do this. You can, and you want to do that, but you gotta make the ground ready for that. You got to help it be that way. If you want your husband to be more attentive, give him something to look at. Give him something to pay attention to. You know what I'm saying? And do things, whatever it is that he likes. Ask him and ask open-ended questions. Not like, how was your day? Fine. That's not an open-ended question. Asking an open-ended question is, what was the best part of your day today? Right. You know what I'm saying? That is an open-ended question. And one thing that men need to learn about women is that women seek communication. They seek, they're not just asking you how your day is just to, they are, but I guess how to explain it. If all you say is fine, you're not giving your wife what you need. She's looking for that engagement, especially if she has worked or if she has been in the home all day taking care of kids. She's looking to establish that connection that a woman needs with a husband.
Mm-hmm.
So after a while, sometime that I don't care how tired you are, how long a day, you have to engage with her and be like, yeah, it was fine, but this is what happened. You know what? Just today, nothing really happened. Went to work and did all this, but I had an interesting thing. Or hey, thank you for the lunch that you packed.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be some type of engagement because that's what women seek. So when they ask you those questions, sometimes we joke about, when a woman, I saw what was that saying we saw? If a woman says, I don't care what you do, then you better stop what you're doing and find out what she cares about.
Do not go forward. Don't go left or right. You just stay where you at.
Women communicate differently, and you have to understand how your spouse communicates. So there was a point where all I did was say fine. And then I learned, and she actually told me, I think it was like, I need more, from you. And so now I'm able to say, hey, this is what, my day went. This is how my day went. And this is what we enjoyed about each other. So definitely have to communicate and take responsibility.
Absolutely. Another thing is do not expect your response from your spouse or from your mate. So that means do not expect that person, whatever it is that you are trying to articulate to them, don't expect them to react or to give you a response as you would want. Or the way you would respond. So, if I'm, for what an example, I guess, is if I'm trying to get my husband, to take me out on a date, and I'm articulating that that's what I want. And then in my head, I got this date going on. If I don't articulate exactly what it is my expectation is, even if I do articulate what my expectation is, when he gives me whatever it is, then I have to appreciate the effort that he made. I have to appreciate the effort that was there and not expect him to do it exactly like I thought he should be doing it. Because then, you setting yourself up for disappointment.
All right. And then men, and then we have to know that the effort is important, but don't just be like, if I just do something, take time to put your best into it. I'm not the best gift giver, and actually my wife and I, we've gotten to a point like when we give gifts, it's like, sometimes she won't buy me anything electronic because she thinks that or whatever. So a lot of times we'd be like, what do you want? And be like, okay, I want this. Well, you go and get it, and that's cool for me.
Yeah.
And for her, she may want all these things, but a lot of times if I'm like, hey, let's go and let me give the effort, let me surprise you, let me do something, that's even better than whatever gift, because she can buy anything she wants, but it's my effort that puts the emphasis on the relationship, because that's what she desires. So you have to know what your spouse wants, what they desire, and once again, that's just setting good foundations and the good practices for a successful relationship.
Absolutely. And now the next thing is one of my favorite points when I was kind of studying this. I was like, oh, this is actually a really good point. And I was really getting these things kind of just downloaded to myself is negotiate. You got to negotiate your to get out of a stuck place. Negotiation is basically, kind of you give, I give, and we kind of meet in the middle at some acceptable terms. Yeah. You got to negotiate. I don't need that anymore. Thank you. You got to negotiate with your spouse to get to a different level and a different place. If you feel like you're in a cycle, you feel like you're in the same place, you feel like you in a, and like I said, sometimes that place where you're stuck is kind of seeming like it's a cool place. It's a happy place. Everybody's chill. Everybody good. You need to still shake things up because, again, I can't tell you how many times we've had people that were blindsided because they thought they were happy. Because they thought everybody was good. Shake it up. Make sure that you're engaging and paying attention, doing something different. That's why when we do post our little love in 60 seconds, when we've gone out on a vacation, we did a little vacay, or we did something, we went shopping together, we went to the park together, whatever it is, shake things up, make things different, do something different, because you will be thinking that you are happy and your husband or your wife will be out with somebody else that's doing a whole bunch of something different and exciting because you're not doing that different and exciting. You got to make sure that you are engaging and that you're negotiating terms. What do you want? this is what I want.
Right. Like what Terrell says, always be thankful no matter what. Thankfulness is very important.
Yes.
You know, it shows appreciation.
Yeah.
And when you're in negotiations, you have to be honest. You can't go into negotiations and negotiate and then don't tell the truth. You know,
Oh,
like, hey,
wow, that's powerful.
like,
You better tell the truth.
And then expect your spouse to compromise or be able to negotiate back where you're not hey, look, I don't like when you bite your fingers and you put it in my ear before we kiss.
Or whatever.
That's not a turn on for me.
Right.
You know, whatever it is,
Yeah.
that, you know, just
Right.
as an example.
Right.
So you have to be like, still have that hard conversation, have that talk, not out of spite, but to say, hey, I'm in this forever. I'm in this to win it. So let's get on the same page on what we both like, what we both can achieve together to go forward in intimacy, to go forward in finances, to go forward in conversation and all these areas. It's very important, but you have to be truthful in your negotiation.
That is super powerful and probably the most important thing that we've said tonight. Honesty, like I said, honesty is the best policy. You got to be truthful. No wet ears. No, because that is disgusting. But anyway, whatever floats your boat.
Right.
But as long as y'all on the same page, it's all good.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
That
But
is undefiled.
exactly. When you are negotiating, you got to listen though. When you're negotiating, because what we are very guilty of a lot of times in relationships is that we do not, we are not listening. When our spouse says that they want something, especially if it's something that we don't necessarily want to do, you know, it's really difficult. There was a couple that we talked to, and they're not on here, and you guys would never know who they are. But the wife, they hadn't had a relationship, you know, sexually in a while. I think it was probably like 9 or 10 months, maybe a year. And the wife, she didn't want to touch her husband. He's super OCD, didn't want to touch her husband unless right immediately before he got in the shower, which is fine. You know, everybody's got their thing. But he was like, you know, if he just got in the shower 10 minutes ago, that wasn't good enough. He like got out of the shower 10 minutes ago and stood in the floor and air dried. That was not good enough. And everybody has their thing, but you know, there was obviously something there that she just really wanted to make sure that was the case. And he wasn't a smelly dude or anything like that I've ever noticed, but they just did not want to she didn't want to come together with this person, with her husband. And, you know, there's got to be some meeting. And he's like, gosh, I don't mind doing that, but like, it don't, you know, it kind of ruins the moment if, you know, I got to get right into it. And even really for her, you know, if you got to get right into it immediately, that's like doing the most, you know what I'm saying? So she has to try to find a way to wrap her head around doing something a little bit different. You know, there's so many other things, like, you know, if your spouse is saying, I want to be intimate more often, you got to listen. There was another lady who was like talking about she want to clean up the house. You know, she would rather be cleaning up than to be intimate with her husband, which I don't even get. But she was like, I'd rather clean up. I'd rather do something else. If your husband is saying, I really want to be intimate more, then you need to listen. If your wife is saying, I really want you to date me more, like before we got married, you need to listen to what it is that she's saying, because she's asking for something, even if she's not articulating it. It may not just be for the dates. It may be saying, I need you to pay me more attention, because again, sometimes if a person is not laying out before God, if they're not listening to what God is saying, that place is a weak place. And so if somebody else comes along and starts filling that place, then that's when the enemy has an opportunity to come in. Right. That's when there's an opportunity for a problem.
And you should always date your spouse. You did those things to attract them.
Yeah.
And you did those things to, you know, like a peacock, show off all your good spots. And then when you get married, you just sort of like bring your feathers back in. Your wife or your spouse was attracted to you because of the beautiful colors in your tail. Mm-hmm. So you still, at some point, I don't care if you've been married for 1 month or 100 months or 100 years, at some point you still need to date your spouse. You need to go back and do some things that you did to get them, because that's what they were attracted to.
Yeah.
You know, and that's what they enjoyed. So, and then once again, it's an effort. put that effort in to make a point to date your spouse, especially if you got kids, especially young kids, and your time and you're distracted and doing all the things of life. You still have to take time out to be like, you know what, we're going to take, even if it's 30 minutes while the kids are asleep, or 30 minutes where we can get away, something to get that spark going, to make sure that, in that analogy, that your wheels aren't just spinning, that you aren't going somewhere, that you have to be moving forward. You should always be moving forward in this journey of life, which is a relationship, and in marriage, always be moving forward. And when you get stuck, we're talking about how to get unstuck, finding places to recognize where you are and do the things that you need to do to get unstuck.
Absolutely. And again, the next thing, like, so we're getting ready to wind down, is making sure that you're opening up, to your spouse, that you are, again, and that just really basically goes back to what you said about being honest. You got to open up and you got to talk. And that leads into our next thing. Don't be afraid of painful topics. Don't be afraid that if you say, this is what I want, that, it's going to hurt somebody's feelings, or they're going to be hurt, or they're going to be upset. Pray about, think about, recognize how you can share whatever it is that you're trying to share in a good way, in a gentle way, in a non-threatening way, and talk about it. You got to open up and you got to talk about it. And then even if it's something that's a painful conversation. I was telling my husband that, we were talking about actually something today. And I said, wow, I was able to talk about that and not really be full of emotion or be full of negative emotion behind that. I was able to get through it and, talk about it. Not necessarily something I want to talk about, but we talked about it and it was okay. The more you share and the more you are, and that's a part of your intimacy. That's a part of your opening up. The more you're sharing that way, the better you will be forward. And it will make those hard places where you used to be broken or where you used to be upset, or whether it's a moment where you are upset. Maybe your wife has gained 70 pounds, or maybe your husband's gained 70 pounds. And I'm just putting whatever out there. And you're like, man, I really want to tell my spouse that I really want them to lose some weight. And it's losing weight is a healthy thing, but it may be a very sensitive issue, because she might be like, yeah, I did gain 70 pounds and I'm really mad about it. But you need to be able to give that person positive emotion, but be honest with that person. Say, hey, honey, I'm worried about, your health. I still love you. I'm still attracted to you. I still think you're great, but I really want, you to work on those parts. I really want you to, I want us to work on them together. Even if you're super fit, let's work on them together. Cause that's all the more reason.
So don't take a Coke can and a 2-liter and be like, this is you in the 2-liter now. This is you at the Coke can 10 years ago.
Because you might get slapped.
Right. It's not a way. And, and really it's just compassion.
Yeah.
And like I said, talking about being tenderhearted. Yes. And how you treat one another and how you communicate one another. And just knowing, once again, if you keep all those things inside, that is a trick of the enemy to isolate you. And sometimes you can be in a spot together with your spouse, but not be together with your spouse because your mind's not there, right? Because your heart's not there, and you're isolated. And that opens doors for the enemy to come into relationships, to come into your marriage and bring distractions, to bring strife, to bring hurt, and to bring pain. So having the difficult conversations early is better than having the difficult conversations later. Absolutely. So, definitely take time to talk. And then if you are a person that is easily offended, well, we went back to talk about, I think it was number 2, or number 1, the change begins with you. Mm-hmm. If your spouse is coming to you with a concern, have some compassion and listen. Yeah. And even if they didn't say it right and you think they have good intentions, then once again, check yourself. Yeah. And check your emotions sometimes at the door, because a lot of times we are emotional creatures, we are emotional beings, but when you are in love with somebody and when you want to relate to somebody, sometimes you have to start with yourself to make the change. Absolutely.
And like my final point and our final point tonight is when you are making, when you're sharing these things to try to get yourself unstuck, do not do it from a place of anger or a place of frustration, because you're not going to say it right. Sir, ma'am, you're not going to say it right. Sir, ma'am, you're not going to say it right. If you're angry or if you're frustrated, you're not going to say it right. So don't share in that spirit. Don't share it in that content. Don't be like, oh, you know what? You'll never take me nowhere. Nobody's going to be listening to that. Or, we'll never, whatever. Or you spend all the money or you, whatever. No one is going to be receptive to what you say. If you say it from a place of frustration or anger. If you do, or you got an attitude, like if you have an attitude, nobody's going to be listening to what you have to say. Right. It's just not going to work. But if you got to get back, collect your emotions, collect yourself, and say, first deal with yourself. Get yourself together.
Take a deep breath.
Take a deep breath and then share what it is that you're feeling. Then share what it is that you'd like to try. And again, getting unstuck may be definitely you making the first steps to do something different. Think outside of the box. DM us. We'll give you some ideas of some things that you can try and that you can do that are different. Like I said, you can do so many things that can shake up and spice up your relationship and spice up where you're going. Even if you're not married and you're in a relationship, or you may be engaged, or you're in a long-term relationship, there's, your relationship has a future. So you need to see, yourself in the future. And I told my husband, today, even I said, I dated, different people and I had dated different guys. I said, but, and there were a number that had asked me to marry him. I'm just going to be real. I said, but out of all of the ones that asked me, and let me see if there's anybody on here that's old friends that asked me. Okay, I don't know. I can't tell. But anyways, all of the guys that asked me, I could never see myself in my future with them. I could see myself in the moment, and some of them I really cared about, but I couldn't see myself in the future. And he was the first person. This guy was the first person that I could see my future with. And like I told him today, I still see my future with you. So you want to really still see your future with your spouse. And if you don't see it right now, then you need to try to reimagine your life, reimagine your best life. And that's what we keep saying to each other, that we're going to live our best life, and I love my life. Right.
Living my best life.
So we are living our best life. We want you to live your best life. Imagine your life with your spouse, you guys being your best and living your best, because God will give you just what you envision. If you have a vision, without a vision, the people perish. If you don't have a thought for your future, you don't see you guys doing stuff like, we just going to be traveling the world. That's what we want to do. We want to travel the world, or we want to have the greatest business or the greatest ministry or the greatest whatever. You got to see yourself in your future, because if you don't see your future, then that's going to be an issue, because you got to have a future. You've got to have a vision, because without it you will perish and your marriage will perish.
That's true.
You gotta be able to see it. You gotta be able to see it.
Well, that's it for this evening. So hey, this is Viewer Appreciation Day. So each and every one of you that is tuned in, you are automatically entered into our drawing.
Yeah.
What we're going to do is we're going to give away a $50 gift card just to say thank you for tuning in. And what we're going to do is we're going to give everybody else that couldn't tune in tonight, they'll get another opportunity to enter the drawing. And the way you do that is to go to our Facebook page and
our YouTube page.
Our YouTube page, which is What's Up Video. We're going to put this all in at the end of the video. What's Up Video, and subscribe. Yep. And then if you subscribe to our video, we want you just to go back, and I'm going to post a little video talking about this on YouTube and Facebook, and just like that. And that's all you have to do to be in the drawing. So once again, if you're already on tonight, we got you entered. Probably give you 2 entries for being live.
You'll get 2 entries. So if you're live, and then if you go on and subscribe, then you'll also be entered again. So.
And then Thursday, tune in to YouTube, tune in to Facebook, tune on to Instagram. We're going to do our Love in 60 Seconds, and we're going to announce our winner.
We'll announce our winner on Thursday. So you'll be able to go get you some food for $50 or pay down on some food depending on where you're going. You might be able to take both you and your wife out, or you and your husband out, and be like, hey, we got some coins to go out on the Love in 60 Seconds, people. Or you might go up and be like, if you single, go buy yourself a scarf, or buy yourself a little purse or a pair of shoes, a little something for yourself.
So we appreciate you guys tuning in. Hey, share this with somebody, tell somebody about Love in 60 Seconds. If you're on Facebook, if you're on Instagram, subscribing to our channel. You can go back and watch this is episode number 14. Watch all the antics that we've had, all the things that we talked about, but we appreciate you. So we're going to be giving more giveaways.
Yes, some good stuff coming.
Good stuff coming, but we want you to
big stuff.
Keep sharing and liking, and we appreciate all of you tonight that have engaged with us. We see all of you, and we appreciate all of you. Thank you for your likes, your hearts, your encouragement.
Yes, thank you.
So we will see you we will talk to you on Thursday to announce the winner, and we will see you next Monday on Love in 60 Seconds. But we are challenging you. If you are in a place where you are spinning your wheels, or that if you feel like you have been stuck in your relationship, first thing we challenge you to do is to take a look at yourself and try to change your gears to get unstuck. And then a lot of times after that, if you can't do that, and if you haven't been successful, then you have outside resources. Get somebody to throw you a lifeline. Put some boards or something solid underneath your wheels to give you whatever traction that you need to get moving forward again. Because if you are stagnant, you are giving yourself opportunities for the enemy to come in and destroy what God has put together. And we want the best for you in your marriage. We want the best for you in your relationships. We want the best for you in Christ, because we love you and we're praying for you. So get out of that unstuck situation. Start spinning your wheels. Start loving. Start moving forward. And we'll see you next week.
All right.
Anything else?
That's it.
All right. This is Love in 60 Seconds. Appreciate you. See you again live on Facebook and Instagram next week.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Good night.